we're live.
Yay.
Yay. Let's see.
Well, while we do that, I'm just going to do a quick little Instagram story.
Hi, Thomas.
Hi, Tom. Welcome. All right. Hello. Hi, Caroline. We'll give people a couple moments. If you guys want to tell us where you're tuning in from, you're welcome to leave that in the chat. Hello, Steffi.
Hi,
Chicago.
everyone.
Oh, hello. All right. Poland, Denmark. Awesome. South Africa. This is dope. So many different places.
All over the place.
All over. Hawaii. Oh, so nice.
I want to go to Hawaii.
Right. All right. So as people start to kind of come in, you're welcome to say hi in the chat. My name is Danny, and thank you all for being here. And I wanted to organize this event on behalf of Surfer because when I started at Surfer, I kept getting a lot of random kindness on the internet from strangers saying, a woman, a Black woman, a Black person. Yo, what's going on? What is this? And everyone was just super kind, but also super surprised. And I know that I don't want to be the exception. And I know there are other women who are doing amazing things in this sector. And I wanted to use the platform that I have in order to uplift and kind of, share with others. So these amazing people you see before you, you can check out all of their full bios on the actual website where you guys signed up. Mm-hmm. And also I'm going to be writing up a post-event article with even more information about them, and any questions we don't get to answer in this live session, you can check out those answers, hopefully written down for you on the website for Surfer's blog after the event. Yeah. So I want to get started with everyone kind of just sharing their origin story and what brought them into their field and what they do specifically. So let's start with Julie. You want to go first?
Me first? Okay, cool. Yeah. Leading it off here. So I kind of stumbled into SEO. I worked for an agency, and when I started, I didn't even know what the letters SEO stood for. So to give you an idea of where I started, it was bare bones, rock bottom. I started with content writing and eventually worked my way up to lead SEO for about 80 or 90 clients with that local agency. And 2 years ago, I quit to do affiliate marketing full-time. So that's what I'm doing now.
Awesome. Thank you. Bibi, do you want to go next?
Oh, hi, I'm Bibi. I'm in Amsterdam, Netherlands. And I started as a social media marketer for a worldwide truck trader because I wanted to work from home because I had a kid. But at some point, I felt like I didn't want to have a boss anymore. And I started building affiliate sites, and I had friends that were also building affiliate sites, and I set up a mastermind. And then those guys started asking me to build links, and I didn't have any idea what that was. But that's how my business started. And now, we're building links everywhere 24/7.
Lovely. Thank you. Marie, do you want to go next?
Yes. So I actually started with an app development company. I own the app development company, and we actually needed SEO. So I actually hired and fired 3 or 4 very large SEO firms. And before deciding I would have to learn it myself, ended up falling in love with it, ended up doing really well with the app company, but then I ended up wanting to chase SEO instead. So I actually left the app development company and then started an SEO agency. And now I have 2 SEO agencies and still growing strong. So that's how it happened. I just fell in love with it while I was trying to learn it for the app development purposes.
Okay. Fell in love with SEO. I love story. I love that. Okay. Cassandra, what about you?
Hi, everyone. I'm Cassandra. I am based in Toledo, Spain. I kind of do SEO, not as an expert, but I use it for work. I started off wanting to be a travel blogger, then realized that travel blogging is kind of hard to create consistent income. So I figured out my skills and started what is now my agency, which is a brand strategy and copywriting studio. So I use SEO with my clients for copywriting, content creation, blogs, and so on and so forth.
And so on and so forth. I'm sure the list is like endless. But yes.
Yeah, let's keep it short.
Right. And last but certainly not least, Kayle, please tell us how you got started.
I'm Kayle. I started in 2008. I was a marketing director, and at that time it was more print, but we were rebranding the website, and one of the company's clients owned an SEO like Omni Group marketing company, and he handed me a white paper on SEO, and I thought it was amazing how it, at that time anyways, kind of leveled the playing field in the marketing space. The smaller companies could compete with the larger companies in this new, playground, if you will. So I thought that was awesome. And I started teaching everybody that would listen to me about SEO. And that has just kind of snowballed into today. I'm writing with SCJ and Ahrefs and just continuing to share information and resources for the space.
So you believe in this. You're like, listen, anyone who will listen,
Yes.
please learn about the project
exactly.
and the amazingness that is SEO. So, okay. Well, those are their origin stories. And again, like, you guys can interact in the chat, ask any questions. As you guys see, I am visually, challenged. So I will try to read that small print as much as I can and make sure I don't miss any of your questions. But all of our panelists will be in the chat talking to you guys as well. So I want to give each of our panelists a little bit of time to kind of discuss and answer some of my really hard-hitting questions. And I want to start off with Bibi. And Bibi, the question is, what is backlink?
Oh, no.
What is a backlink, and what is its role in SEO?
Right. I'm going to assume that the people that are watching, that they have some basic knowledge. So I'm going to do the short definition, right? So a backlink is a link that your site gets from other sites. And those sites can be in a certain vertical or niche. And if you get really good backlinks to your site around the topics that you want to be important for, then it can help you become one of the first answers in Google when somebody asks a question. And yeah, you can become an authority on a certain topic. So for people that have never heard of SEO or backlinks, I usually say, you go into a room and you ask, hey, does anybody know a good physical therapist? And if 20 people start pointing to one person, you're going to assume that that's probably the best physical therapist in the room. So that's yeah.
Okay, perfect. That's a great explanation. Thank you. There are a lot of like scammy and sketchy ways that people go about acquiring backlinks. What are some things people, like some warning signs or things people should look out for? What backlinks do we want to avoid, or ways of acquiring backlinks do we want to avoid?
Right. So to be honest, I do what is called white hat, but I don't really believe that it's white hat, because I do a lot of outreach for the backlinks.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in Google's official definition, that's not cool either, when you ask for a backlink. I also have a lot of black hat friends. And when I look at the case studies that they do, in some cases, really spammy and shady links work, right? But I do think that if you bank on one strategy only, that you run into the risk of, if Google doesn't like that strategy and catches on, that you lose so much of your traffic that it can really hurt your business. So in my opinion, I think you should just do what you want to do, see what the effects are, and try to keep it sort of varied so you're not at risk. But I'm not super against spammy backlinks. If they work, they work, but it's always a risk if that's the only way you're going to go.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a neutral diplomatic answer. But
very Switzerland. But can you just really quickly just explain the difference between white hat and black hat, just for the people who may not know what that means?
Yeah, so that's I don't know all the latest updates and everything, but Google basically says if you're going to aggressively ask for links, or you're gonna get links from people in an unnatural way, then that's black hats, right? But if somebody points to you just because they think you're a great resource and they do that without you asking, that's white hat. So
Got it.
please correct me if I'm wrong, because
it sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Anna says gray hat SEO. Yeah, we can have some middle ground. It doesn't have to be one extreme or the other. Yeah.
But what I do always feel is like sometimes people see Google as a moral authority, and they start seeing the white hat and black hat as, good versus evil. But I don't think it's that. What I like to do is just use my common sense, and that usually veers on the white hat side of things. What I think is white hat. But it's just like, I'm not gonna litter the internet with crap, basically.
Yeah, we don't. There's enough of that, We don't. We don't need more of that. Okay, that makes perfect sense. And my last question I want to ask you, Bibi, is like, so copywriters, we have portfolios, designers, we have our things. What is the best way for someone who builds links to showcase their work to potential clients? How do you even package that?
Right. So for me, I think what I do is a lot of personal branding, because I'm total Facebook addict and everything like that. So I'm on there all the time. I connect with people, and that's how I build my business. But how to showcase what you do is I try to be as transparent as possible. So this is how I work. This is what you're getting, and I really try to manage the expectations and keep it all above table.
Yeah.
And I think transparency is, if you can show that to clients, then you already win so much when you compare it to other link builders and other SEOs. Even if you're transparent about any fuck ups that you do, a client really appreciates that. So I think
honesty, transparency, and be real with it. No,
keep it real.
Okay, thank you, Bibi. All right, so Cassandra, I'm coming your way. So what are some examples of inclusive language when it comes to copywriting or writing in general? What should we be looking out for? How do we be inclusive with our language?
This is a great question. I feel like inclusive language is becoming newer. I would say something really simple is probably removing gender. So guys, ladies, things like that. When you're writing, if you can just refer to people as people or another descriptor word. So a lot of my clients, instead of saying I help women entrepreneurs, we're now saying I help entrepreneurs who are service-based. So they offer a service, or if they offer a digital product, or if they're course creators. And that actually, I think, helps with SEO, because now you're not kind of generalizing, you're getting a lot more specific. So if somebody is looking for something, they're more inclined to click on your website. So I would say the easiest thing, is to kind of just read through your content and copy and see if you can remove gender from your language.
Okay, and I'm going to ask a question that's not SEO related, but why does it matter to be inclusive in our language?
Well, with the way the world is currently moving, I would say it's better to be inclusive. There are a lot of people who are, identify as different genders. There are people who are more in tune with their identity. We're all kind of going into I think this reckoning, I suppose, in the socio-cultural landscape. And the more that you are inclusive with your copy and content, I think the more you are able to reach a wider audience and actually capture more clients, especially if you're offering affiliate links or digital products, courses, or just anything digital in that sense.
Okay, dope. Thank you. And what is the first step, in your professional opinion, of creating a brand voice? I mean, being cute and funny, maybe just not enough, how do you translate your personality? How do you brand yourself?
Oh gosh. So I was just talking about this with a few other copywriters, and we were like, how do we describe this process? I'm going to say there's some technical things, and then some just gut, creative, artistic writer feelings. So for me, brand voice is probably first deciding what your message is for your brand, what you want to share, what your mission is. And then from there, deciding, okay, how do you want to actually sound online? Is it that you are snarky and sassy and really in your face, or are you more of a quiet, soft brand voice? And then from there, kind of deciding, okay, you have your brand voice, which technically, in my opinion, should stay consistent throughout all of your content. And then your brand tone is what should change. Brand tone, it changes based off of the context. So I can have like my consistent brand voice, but let's say I'm talking about something that is happening right now, like the current situation of the world. The tone for that is going to change a little bit if my voice is always like snarky and sassy. It changes depending on context.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. As freelancers, in a sense, we get to like choose our clients, but in another sense, when you need the money and you need consistent work and you want to continue growing your business, choosing is kind of like, what advice would you give to a freelancer or a copywriter, freelance copywriter who has a client and their language, their ideology, their voice, they don't really match? How would you go about navigating a situation like that?
So I've been in that situation, and it is hard because sometimes when you need that money, you're just like, let me just suck it up and keep my mouth shut. But if you are in a situation where you have a little bit more, I guess, leeway with that, I get it. For me, it would be thinking about what your non-negotiables are. So some people talk about like, okay, their values, which I think having, knowing what your values are and kind of abiding by those are great. But sometimes there are going to be values, in my opinion, that can be negotiated a little bit, maybe stretched, pushed, depending on the situation and the relationship that you have with a client. So I kind of decide, okay, what are my non-negotiables? Like one of my core values is clear communication and transparency. If one of my clients forgets to tell me that they're going on vacation and I'm sending them like 3 documents to review, and then 3 weeks later I have no response, that's kind of a pain, but I'll let it slide. But if they're going to say something really harsh or something that really goes against like my values, maybe with inclusive language, then that's where I will push back and be like, okay, this is a non-negotiable, and I'm gonna have to have a conversation with them to hash it out, hopefully still keep the client, or decide what's best for both of us, which could be ending the relationship.
Yeah. I mean, like sometimes that is the best thing for both of you guys, to just kind of, leave it at that.
Yeah, that's happened to me too. It happens. I mean,
it's inevitable.
Okay.
It's inevitable.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Cassandra. Thank you. I'm gonna move on to Julie. Hello.
Howdy.
So marketing is this huge umbrella, broad term. Okay. And there's also like subsectors underneath it. So your niche is affiliate marketing. Can you explain what that means and like why you decided to pursue that channel of all the options that fall within marketing?
Yeah, so the way I describe it to my grandma, who has no idea how the internet works, is affiliate SEO is it's basically an online salesperson. So I'm 100% commission based, and it's my job to drive sales for other companies. I'm affiliated with them. I'm basically third-party proof of their products or services. So my goal as an affiliate is to basically pre-sale their ideal customer base and push them to buy.
Okay. So why did you, well, let me change that question. How can we use affiliate marketing to start earning passive income? Would you say this is a passive field, or is it like not so much?
Oh yeah. So I went from working probably 60 hours a week. I'm down to because I've been outsourcing a lot recently, about 2 to 3 hours a day, 3 or 4 days a week. So passive is an understatement, I think. But not to discount everything that went into outsourcing everything and processing out everything to get there. But at the end of the road, it's a very, very good way to make passive income online if you do it right.
Okay. And for the beginners out there who are like, ooh, wait, 3 to 4 hours a day? How do I get started?
Yeah, no, I busted my butt for a solid 5 or 6 years. One, learning SEO, two, working for an agency. So I was working 40 hours a week there, managing 80, 90 clients. Then I would come home and I would just grind on SEO more because, not unlike Marie, I think it was, I really developed a love for SEO once I started getting into it. So affiliate for me was a way to make money without having to deal with the big scary clients. So I'm my own client. Basically, I am able to make money because of my skills in SEO, not necessarily my skills at keeping clients. So that was really appealing to me.
Is this a good niche for introverts? Because I might be looking around. Do you not have to do
So
is it
yes and no, but the way to make good money here is actually talking to people. So a lot of affiliates will work primarily with Amazon and hide behind their desk all day. But just last week, I have a partner that's actually in Florida, which is where I'm at. I actually drove down there to meet with them in person. So I'm on the phone with these high-level partners. I'm meeting with them. So yes, it's good for introverts in a sense. Like, I'm not managing a bunch of clients all the time. I'm not talking to people a lot, but you're going to only make money if you're providing genuine value to these businesses, and that's going to come from building that relationship.
Okay, makes sense. How did you know it was time to hire an outsource or hire a team or outsource your work?
So when I started resenting working those couple hours a day, so I work from home, and anything that was boring or I just found myself not wanting to do, I would just outsource it. Once I start getting more profitable, that doesn't mean that I have more money to spend on frivolous things. That means I have more money to streamline my processes and get everything working so that I'm more on a high level instead of doing the piddly day-to-day stuff.
Okay, so when you start resenting your work and it starts becoming something that you used to enjoy but you don't enjoy so much anymore, it's time to maybe...
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Thank you. So I want to open this question up to everyone on the panel. What are some, and I say if any to be, to be polite, but I know there are. What are some hurdles that women face in, let's just go broad, in tech, in SEO, or even just owning a small business or being a freelancer that you guys can kind of speak on?
Dick pics.
Dick pics?
Hello? What?
I'm sorry that I'm talking about this, but it's the basic decency thing, right? It's like, I get harassed on social, and just I told you this, Danny. The day after you invited me for this thing, I was just like, wow, this is such a coincidence, because just yesterday I got this lovely message from a guy who's actually someone who organizes meetups and stuff. So yeah, there are a lot of other hurdles, but it's, and also at conferences that you get harassed. So sometimes it's really basic decency and basic safety rules that are being sorry, that was my wonderful addition to that.
Okay, so we have dick pics on the list.
Yeah.
Kayle and Marie, do you guys want to jump in and tell us anything that you may think, any hurdles?
Yeah, I think for me in this space, a lot of the men were really loud, and it was hard to get your voice in there and be just as loud. But I figured that once you did start speaking up and speaking a little bit differently, you actually gain a following doing that. I think the hardest part, though, is to find the courage to speak louder than the crowd at the time. And it's just a little more aggressive and a little bit more chaotic. But once you're used to speaking up, people actually really do start listening, and you can go in more with your style, which is, my style is completely different than a lot of the people in the SEO industry. But once you let people know who you are and what you have to offer, it becomes a little less chaotic. But I think the hardest part is you actually just have to speak up.
You have to be
Yeah,
loud.
I agree. You have to exude confidence because as a woman, you're normally seen as, or at least in my experience, when I first started at the agency that I worked at, I didn't know anything, but I was still brought into meetings just to kind of ease the tension between a meeting with otherwise two men. So I may not even be saying anything, but I'm just there writing notes and kind of giggling if they make a joke to sort of make it easier to close a deal. So in order to get that respect, you really have to exude it. And then once people see that confidence, I think it's easier to make a name for yourself because you've already overcome that initial obstacle of being the big voice in the room, being the authority in what you're trying to do, that people kind of respect that more once they see it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, Kayle, do you want to jump in?
Well, yeah, I was just going to second what Marie and Julie just said, and Bibi. It is that, right? You're going to be shaky. Your heart's going to be pounding. But the more you do speak up and you share your expertise, that's the only way for people to start seeing you as an expert and to stop questioning everything that you say. And as Julie brought up, it is, I'm not in in-person meetings like that anymore, but I definitely remember that period in my career. And one of the things you can do is don't be the note taker, right? Don't be the one in the meeting giggling and taking notes. Be the speaker, be the expert. And another way that you can get people to start listening to your expertise and stop questioning your experience and your knowledge base. I back everything up with links to the technical articles and the solid, things that Google puts out or things that other people put out, so that it's not, it can't really be, or if they have additional questions or if they wonder where, how do you know that, though, you have like the tech backup to prove what you're saying. So yeah, stop being the note taker, start being the voice of expertise in the room, and back up what you say in either your own case studies or others.
Totally. Come with receipts, come ready to just like cite your sources and all of that. Yeah. I am. Speaking up and like having that big voice, I want to talk about knowing our worth, knowing your worth, and setting rates. How every time I still get shaky. I'm like, is this okay? Send. Hopefully. Like, how do you go about setting your rates, and how do you know when it's time to raise your rates?
Cassandra, sorry.
Oh, do you want to go, Bibi?
No. I was just seeing if anybody else is going, but you go first.
Okay. For me, at least knowing when to raise my rates, I try and raise my rates every 6 months, to be honest.
Okay.
I don't know if that is the right way to do it. Some people have told me that I am quite expensive, but that's okay. But I do kind of at least look at my rates every 6 months and then kind of see what results I've gotten in those last 6 months with clients. And then if my expenses on just like my business side have grown because I need to hire more people for help or anything else, then I kind of raise the rates. If I'm happy with what I'm getting paid and I feel like it covers my time and everything else, then I kind of just leave it. But I at least review my rates every 6 months.
Okay. So you go by time, and then you also look at your expenses and obviously the effort that you're putting in, and if everything is still covered and you feel comfortable with it, then, but you revisit this periodically.
Oh yeah. I'm always looking at my prices. Like I said, some people have told me that I am on the more expensive side, but honestly, I feel like if I'm getting the results that I am getting with my clients, then that should be paid for.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else have any thoughts on this, on raising rates or setting rates?
Yeah. So for me, like I said, the business came to me before I wanted it. So I had clients already. And I think what could help is that you determine what you think you're worth and then double it.
I like that last part.
Yeah. And then also have I think people see this raising rates as a life or death situation. It's not. What's the worst thing? If you raise your rates and no leads close or no leads come in, fine. You tried it, didn't work. But surprisingly, if you raise your rates, you get the better clients, right? So I think every 6 months I kind of double my rates just as a way to diminish the amount of leads that are coming in, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm super spoiled with leads. And then I noticed that, yeah, it gets less, but I get bigger packages. So really try it. And it's not a life or death situation. Nobody's going to be like, oh, haha, she raised her rates and now she's not getting clients. Oh, she sucks. You know, she can't do this business anymore. It's not reputation damage for years. You know, then you can always change it. But really think about what you're worth and double it, and see it as a game. You know, I think men see a lot of things also as a game. So if you have that little more playfulness with it.
Sure, it's not life or death, like you said. What about raising rates for a current client? Like imagine you have a long-standing relationship with a client, and then all of a sudden you're like, actually, I want more. How do you start that conversation? Has anyone had any experience with that?
I don't want to go first again, so
I'll talk on this one. I just did this. I'm really, really bad at pricing and having those conversations. So probably they're absolutely, sales is my least favorite conversation to have. I just love the work and I just want to do the work. So I did raise my rates because I raised them over the summer with new clients because I had too many leads than I could handle. And it went well. And I noticed I was doing more of the thing I wanted to do for less stress and it was more beneficial. So I was like, okay, after the new year, I will, do this in another way. And I just told my clients, these rates are increasing for these services, but I grandfathered them in for 6 months. So they have 6 months to either, continue working or find another provider. And I did that around the January, February mark of the year, because that's when most, B2B companies and that I work with anyways, are setting their marketing budgets. Yeah. So then they, it was, what's the word I'm looking for? Like respectful of their company and their marketing dollars to be able to move that budget around as need be. Also come into that with like, here's the return you're getting on your investment, and here's the projected return that you can continue getting on this investment.
Totally. Yeah, I remember seeing something recently, not charging for the actual like hours or the time that you put into it, but like the results that the client is going to receive. And I mean, you may spend 6 hours writing a course, but that course they're going to sell and they're going to use it for a long time and they're going to make so much more than your 6-hour rate, so thinking about that as well. And I like doubling also. Maybe I like that idea as well. All right. So we're going to go back to some more individual questions and Kayle, you're up. So in your experience, how long does it take for SEO to start showing results? Because it's not an overnight thing.
Right. Well, I'm going to have probably a different answer than you'd get. Maybe it's very situational, right? The way that I do it, if you have information, historical data, if you have information on what works, what gets results, and you factor that in with the time that it takes to analyze those patterns, the time that it takes to create those materials, and the time that it takes to build the necessary backlinks, upon deployment, you should have results because you've done your research and you've built the campaign to have results. So a realistic timeline is however long it takes you to do the research and build the campaign and deploy. If you take the approach that I see, unfortunately, I see this as kind of a common theme. If you take the approach where you're just looking at keyword volume, if you're just doing keyword research from that aspect, it's going to take longer because you don't know what pays off in the end. You're throwing, I use the analogy of throwing noodles against the wall to see what sticks. It's expensive, and that's what's going to take 6 months and longer because you don't know what works. If you focus on what works and you start there, and you start with the immediate results and work backwards, you should have immediate results. You can, it is definitely possible. For me, that's about a 3-month period of time though, to analyze the data, build the campaign and deploy. But once it deploys, it should work.
I love how SEO defines immediate. You're like, immediate results, 3 months of research and like effort and elbow grease and like data analysis. Yeah. Okay. So how do you approach SEO strategy for different platforms? Because I mean, LinkedIn, Google, different platforms. How do you go about like multi-channel marketing, basically?
Right. So within Google Analytics, there are multi-channel funnel reports, and you can look at those reports and use that data to understand your user paths to conversion. And from there, you can make recommendations. And then I hand off to that department within the company that I'm partnered with, the social team that handles LinkedIn versus the PPC team that's running Facebook ads. So for example, if the lead conversion rate is highest for email marketing, I would look to see within Google Analytics which marketing channels have the highest email conversion rate and which of those articles from those channels have the highest email conversion rate. So then I can analyze, what's the main topics of interest for that. And then I would hand that off to the email marketing team and say, write more like this and let them do their thing because they're experts in that. And okay, so I'm checking my notes because I am so nervous. I don't want to like miss saying something. So the other one, if LinkedIn, so you'd use the example of LinkedIn. So I wanted to give an example with LinkedIn. If you see within your multi-channel funnel reports that LinkedIn is, let's say, top of funnel, so you see that it's top of funnel for those conversions, you would then go back into your analytics and kind of filter down to the LinkedIn referral channel. And then the same thing, which type of articles, you'll see a pattern. You absolutely will see a pattern of which type of articles the LinkedIn audience likes. So then I'd go to the social media team and say, write more like this, and we build it that way. Or from a conversion rate optimization standpoint, maybe you see there's a lot of LinkedIn traffic coming to these 5 landing pages, but they're not really doing anything else. I'd go look at those pages. Am I asking them to do anything else? If I'm not, maybe I throw the email sign up on that and see how that does. Maybe I throw a webinar sign up and see how that does. So use your analytics to define your marketing channels and inform your A/B tests. Yes, okay. Did I answer your question?
You totally did.
I babble. I go on bunny trails, so feel free to reel me back in.
No, you totally answered the question.
We all do, Kayle. We all do. We're all babblers. Solid cool.
So thank you for that really great explanation. So we were talking a little bit about like following our user and understanding their behaviors and what they like, what they don't like. A lot of people who aren't in this space are and even people who are in this space are concerned about how much people know about us from our behavior on the internet, ads that have followed us, all of those types of things. Can you tell someone like who isn't involved in SEO or CRO like why this information is necessary, how we're using it, is it ethical? Just a little bit of information on that.
A little bit. So this was definitely a tough question, and I almost was like, I don't know if I can talk about this super well because I don't know the super technical ins and outs of how all of that privacy works. But the way that I explained this to my mom, right when the Facebook movie came out and everybody was like super up in arms about this topic, right? The way that I explained it is that consumer data is used in more places than just websites and just on the internet, right? Like your local grocery store, for example, they use data as to what products to have on the shelf. And if you super love a specific product at your local grocer, you may not get the same product when you visit a grocer in another area based on consumer data. So it is very much a part of our lives off the internet as well. And it is a good thing. It's a good thing to be able to purchase the products that you like. And to go further, where those products are placed in the grocery store is all based on consumer data. The receipts that we get on the back of our coupons that we get on the back of our receipt is based on consumer data. So those are all things that you're stoked on, that you like and you enjoy. So it is very much a part of our everyday life. And I don't think in and of itself, it's a bad thing, or it's an unethical thing, or it's a dangerous thing. Can it be used in unethical ways? Sure, as most things can, which leads into something else you had in there. So really, my main advice for using consumer data in an ethical way, or for SEOs to use data in an ethical way, you have to use your own moral and ethics compass. And the way that I do that is I make sure that the companies I partner with align with my personal morals and ethics. And I do that by getting to know the people before I work with them, and make sure that, right, so that the work that you're supporting, or who's benefiting from your work, your morals and ethics align.
Okay. So we shouldn't freak out so much. It's not that like cookies and websites are terrible things. The internet is a big, scary, terrible place. People collect data for all types of things, even when you're just going to buy some hot Cheetos.
Exactly. Yeah. That your store has your hot Cheetos is based on your consumer data, and that's a good thing. So
yeah, I live in Spain. I haven't seen hot Cheetos in 10 years. I don't know why I use that example.
Okay.
I don't know why I use that example, but yeah. Okay. All right. I hope that puts
it's the TikTok. Wasn't there a TikTok with hot Cheetos? I think so.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you. All right, Marie, are you ready to talk to me a little bit?
I'm ready. It's my turn.
All right. So we heard that if you put in the work and you're using strategy and you're analyzing things and you know what works, that you should start getting results from SEO pretty quickly. Yeah, especially if you've worked at this for years and you know what you're doing. Yeah. How do you know if your strategy isn't working, or it's gone stale, or it's time to call in a professional? What are some red flags from your experience that say, I need to rethink this?
Yeah, so with SEO, you're tracking it like any other marketing campaign for the company. So there's a lot of different signs and signals that you can use. One of the most basic ones is, are you getting more traffic to the website? Is that company speaking in front of more people with your SEO? A lot of us track keywords, and you can see if you're gaining in keywords or if you're losing. Or a lot of times clients come to us and they've been stuck, which means they haven't gained in keywords in 6 months to a year. We also check traffic. Usually the traffic is plateaued, stayed the same, or even gone down. Those are all warning signs that your SEO is not really working, or that you need kind of a reboot, or to call in an SEO professional. So there's a lot of metrics that we can use to actually traffic. An easy one is traffic, like I said. Another one is sales. What is that company doing? Are they selling more? Are they selling the same? Like, have you put them in front of new people is the big question. And it's really easy to track, but I'm always amazed at how many companies don't really track it, or don't pay attention.
Anyone. Oh no.
Or don't pay attention to the metric.
I'm going to leave the stage and I'm going to come right back. Hopefully I don't miss anything else.
We can hear you, Danny. Don't burp or fart.
She left us
Bibi.
all on her own.
You say what we're all feeling.
Yeah, it's one of those nightmares, right? Where you think nobody could hear you, and then well, it happens. Sorry, Mary.
Okay, I still can't hear anyone. Everyone is frozen.
Oh.
Ironically, working in tech. Oh no. Okay.
It's okay. This stuff happens.
Hope I'm not interrupting.
Do you maybe answer some of the chat questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
Really?
Great.
I can't hear anything.
So the audience, it looks like the audience can still hear and see us fine. So
do you just want to keep going with the questions?
Yeah,
I can
so
pull those up
Yes.
too.
I can't. Every one of my screen is frozen, so I can't hear
Let's go ahead and
anything.
move on to the next question. Good idea.
Yeah,
What can
let's
I
just
do?
keep
Let me see.
rocking.
There were a couple that I saw up when we first started that I was itching to answer, but now I've since forgotten them, of course.
I'll type my question in the chat then.
All right. So
Okay.
I saw my
Thank you,
my
guys.
next question, and I'll go ahead and just read it off. But it is so I've worked in the SEO field for 15 years or over, and I don't show any signs of slowing down. So what kind of traits make someone successful in this field? And for me, I think it's consistency. You have to remain consistent and being stubborn. You can't give up. You have to want to keep going no matter what. And so that has been the most successful traits that I have seen is just we are stubborn, we have staying power, and then also just being able to speak up, I think is a really big hurdle that a lot of us don't really try to get over or cross over on that bridge. I know a lot of women in the industry who are very quiet, and I wish that they would speak up more because then we would get some of their ideas too. So that's the second question. So let me look for the next.
Yeah, I also think getting a support group like the mastermind thing I was talking about, those were all guys, but they were all the good guys, right? So
Yeah.
they had my back, whatever. I could tell them, hey, this person is pissing me off, and they would, they would help me. They didn't, but just hypothetically.
Yeah.
I think that kind of support group, and it doesn't have to be all women, can also, can be any gender really.
Yeah. That's a really good thing that I've also leaned on too, is having a really close and good support group. And it's just people who cheer you on. And like Bibi said, they just have your back no matter what. And it's guys, girls, it's everybody. It's just building those relationships. That is a really good way that kind of helps you not want to quit. I know when I'm having a bad day, I can go to any of them and talk to them, and they just kind of cheer you on and talk you back up. So having a support group, you definitely have to have, because it helps you stay not so much in your head too, right? So sometimes we perceive things differently than what's really happening, or we're really connected to it, a little more emotional about it. But to then hear someone else's perspective, a lot of times really you kind of like, oh, okay, well, that's what it was, or that's how it happened, and it makes it not so much of a big deal.
Yeah. Oh wait, I was just looking if Danny was back. You back, Danny? Oh, she didn't hear me.
Poor Danny.
You were doing the second question, right?
Yes, I did the second question. So
did the other people, Julie and Cassandra and Kayle, did you guys see a question in the chat that you want to answer?
Yeah, there was one that I saw that was when we first got here. I forget the name, but talking about a couple of months ago, Google started switching all of the title tags in the SERP, and this person sounded a bit frustrated that 7 out of 10 of their title tags were switched. I've been finding that it's been switching to the H1. So to me, my analytical brain says Google wants to see the H1 as the title tag, so I've been matching them or not having them as varied. And then you're able to control it and Google will see it and not just fill in whatever it is you have. And there was another one that was talking about Google Chrome having the cookie Armageddon coming up. And I was listening to a podcast about this the other day. It is a little bit worrisome, obviously, being an affiliate, which relies pretty heavily right now on cookies. But there are other ways to track, and Safari has actually been doing that, or has not had cookies on mobile for a while anyway, and that's the biggest mobile browser because of Apple iPhones. But it's just the second that Google says that they're going to not track cookies anymore, everybody loses their minds. But it's kind of been trending that way already, just because of Safari and mobile. So I'm not too worried about it.
You guys, I made it back.
Yay.
I made it back to your lovely faces again.
Yay.
All right, troubleshooting. I just opened in a new tab and then went to the same room and then joined again, and then now you're all moving again. And
oh my God, yes.
Maria, I missed your answer, but I have one more question for you. Is that okay?
Sure, it's fine. I'm glad you're back.
All right, so I've been told this, even though I don't believe it anymore. I know it's not true, but I've been told that content doesn't make money. Content doesn't make money. So if you have some tips or things you can share for people who are looking to scale or make money from content creation as their like main source of income, or maybe even passive income, but like writing isn't passive. We know this, but yeah, some advice for those people.
Yeah, so I know for the SEO industry doesn't like to focus on content, or maybe it's not interesting enough. I don't know what it was about it, but everyone focused on other areas instead. And I think they really kind of didn't shed light or focus on the most important part, which is the content. And there's larger companies. Content is everything to them. That's who they're reaching out to. That's who they're speaking to. That's who, they have to get certain thoughts across to them and do it really well. So for content writers, I know there's a lot of agencies or companies just like mine. We're constantly looking for really good copywriters. We're constantly looking for who can do, their top game with content. And it's actually in a very expensive field to get into. Copywriting is not cheap by any means. It's expensive. And so if that's your goal, if you want to do something like that, reach out to companies who already have hired copywriters and start shaking hands and talking to those people to see, what, and let them know what you can offer. I think it's a shame that our industry has downplayed it for so long, but I think now is the time we're starting to realize that how important it really is and how much money that field is bringing in. I mean, it is amazing. And I think we're all starting to pay more attention to it now. So I think even being hired as a copywriter is becoming easier and easier. And the top copywriters that really work for large corporations, they're really at the top of their game. And so I think it's time we start focusing on it as a whole within SEO too, and looking at everything instead of getting such tunnel vision over one or two things and pretending like the rest doesn't matter when really it's probably the most important.
Thank you. Yeah. I was pretty late to the SEO game. I'm going to say that. I was very much like, I'm a writer. I don't do science and numbers. And it can be quite intimidating when you're looking at job opportunities and they're like, we need a copywriter, be creative, be great, stand out. Also, data analysis, SEO, like how are they always married? Are they always together? How can someone who identifies more as like the creative writer get into SEO and get into copywriting professionally, because there is so much money to be made. There's enough room for all of us, So
yeah.
How do we go?
Yes, there is. And a lot of the copywriters that I work with don't know or understand SEO, but that's okay because I do. And so what comes into play is I have to know what they need to include, or maybe the main topics or the main pieces of what I need the audience to do. And if I can convey that to you, then you'll write beautifully and knock it out of the park every single time. So as an SEO, I have to know the pieces that I need you to be able to write and bring out. So it's kind of like I know the basics of what I need it to do and what, maybe what our overall voice is, and then you take that and craft it beautifully in. And a lot of times we call that content briefs. I'll send it to you and say, these are like the top tier things that we have to have. And then you craft it in really seamlessly. And I think as long as I know my part and your expertise, I think we marry them all the time really, really well. And it's a really, it's amazing when we're able to do that. And the copywriter doesn't necessarily even have to know SEO or even know, anything about it. As long as I do my job and get you the information, you'll do perfectly.
Totally. And also, I can't not mention Surfer here, right? For those of you who don't know, Surfer is an amazing tool. And I don't even like saying foolproof because there's still a learning curve, of course, like brilliant people use Surfer, people who are just starting out use Surfer, real-time metrics of like how you're going with ranking. I mean, I like the gamification of it all. Surfer makes me excited about SEO. So yeah.
Yep.
Good.
I will say that we do use Surfer within our team. We're a long time user. We've used it for a long time. And I do put everything in, the content editor or something and then send it off. So that, it's pretty easy and self-explanatory. They know certain SEO words they have to put in and stuff like that. So I think it's really, we've used it, our entire team uses it. So I do think it's a good tool. And I also think it's easy to use once you get used to it.
Yeah.
And it's easy for the writers to use too.
Totally. I want to open this up to everybody because I know we're winding down and I know, Cassandra, you have to hop off soon, but I just wanted to know, maybe Cassandra, you can start. What are some traits that make someone good in your field, in your niche, in your sector? Like, what are some traits that you have to do well doing what you do? And this is for everybody, but Cassandra, you want to start?
Oh, that's a good question. So I mostly focus on copywriting, actually. And what Marie was saying, I was like, blessed, because I know SEO, but I don't know SEO technicality stuff. So I actually partner with SEO specialists. For copywriting, though, I think it would be, oh gosh, I don't know if I can think of one thing. This is like a on the spot. I guess the first one would be knowing the difference between copy and content. So content, at least, is used to nurture and educate folks, and then copy then comes in to actually convert them. So if somebody knows the difference between those two, I'm already like, okay, cool. And then for copywriting, I think it would be having the curiosity to go out and ask a lot of questions and do a lot of market research, because at least with copywriting, the way that I approach it is getting to really know the client and getting to know not just like what makes them tick, but kind of their goals, their values, what they're hoping to build out after working with you if you're selling something. All of that goes, I think, into really good copy.
Okay, thank you. What about you, Julie? What makes someone good at what you do? What kind of traits?
So SEO, there is no real right answer. Nobody is going to give you a full list of exactly what you have to do, and it's not going to rank even if you check all those boxes. So having the ability to strive for excellence, but not perfection, and not beat yourself up over it. So even being in SEO, I do it for a living. I'm mostly the brains of, all of the affiliate sites that I have. And still, sometimes websites or pages won't rank it. I don't know why. The ability to just shift that off and then go to the next project where I can start making money is an invaluable tool, because if you're spending a lot of time on something that Google just doesn't like, congratulations, you've wasted your time. So having that ability to, have good direction, but not be so tied up in the nitty-gritty details, having to get 100% on your surfer score, like 89% is probably pretty good. So just, striving for excellence and not perfection.
Thank you. Okay, I love that. Bibi, tell us.
Traits for a good link builder? Is that the question? Or how to make it in a link building business?
Whichever one you would prefer.
Oh, right. So when you're doing link building, I think it's important that you know about your why you're building links, because at some point people get so lost in a specific tactic or a specific metric, and then they forget about, oh, but I wanted to sell stuff, right? Or I wanted to be an industry leader or something like that. If you are very aware of your why, then you don't get lost in all that other stuff. Because at some point, for instance, you're building links, right? And somebody says, oh, I don't link out, but I have an Instagram account that has 500,000 followers. Can you send me a product and I'll review it there. Some people are so focused that they're just like, no, I want the link. But you could actually sell a lot of shit there, right? So you have to be mindful of your why. And as far as, and then also listening is really important. So if you build links, you're trying to get links from other people and other businesses. They're not going to link out to you because it's important to you. They're going to link out to you because it helps them engage and sell to their audience. So you have to understand why they would link out to you. It takes effort, right? So listening is really important. And then being successful in the business, I think, is that you have to be very clear on what you want, or at least be very clear on what you don't want.
Mm-hmm.
So like you guys said, if you really need money and you don't have a house the next day, yeah, you got to lower your standards with clients and with all that stuff. But if you have a little bit more breathing room, be very aware of what kind of projects you don't want to work on. Sometimes a project can suck, but it's a great client and that it's gonna go really well for you. So determining what you want and what makes you happy and gives you purpose, that's really important. I don't know if it's a trait, but
I'll take it.
Okay, good.
And Kayle, what about you?
Turn my mic back on. So the one that kept coming up in my mind while we were talking about this is critical thinking. Critical thinking is probably, within what I do, the number one skill. I work mostly with Google Analytics and helping people define and determine strategies. So not just seeing, one particular metric and chasing that, but really understanding what that metric means from different angles. Because data, right, people love to say like numbers don't lie, but numbers can absolutely lie if you're not segmenting in the right way and if you're not trying to disprove yourself. So critical thinking, and try to disprove any theories that you come up with or you read.
Oh, can you elaborate on disproving yourself?
Oh gosh. Well, I don't know if I have an example off the top of my head, but when you look in Google Analytics from an overall standpoint, you may see that this particular channel or this particular article is doing really well, or maybe it's not. But then when you segment to your specific audience or you segment down to a particular article, you see that the traffic looks, oh, you know what? Search Console is probably the better idea here. So when you look at Search Console data overviews, it may look like it's doing amazing, but then you look at the particular keyword that is most important to that, or keyword topic to that audience or to that company or client, you might see that that one's not actually doing as well. So that's what I mean by trying to disprove yourself. Don't just if you see that you think something is working, don't just start telling everybody this works, because it worked in this one instance on this one website and you don't know 100% the reasons why. You have some ideas, but you have to see it work on multiple different websites over periods of time. I mean, large periods of time. I'm talking in circles here. Look at your data from multiple different angles, and don't, careful what you say for 100% certainty works, because it may be different depending on so many factors. There's too many factors. Yeah, I'm going to be quiet now.
No. So when you think ask yourself again, look at it from 360 degrees, and don't just be settled with taking the superficial results that you like. No confirmation bias.
Yes, you took my babble and made it something amazing. Yes, that's exactly it. Very good. Thank you.
All right. I have just 2 more questions I want to ask you all, and then we'll check the chat and see if there's anything we're missing. We'll be finishing up shortly. Have you ever been undermined by a client, male or otherwise, who doubted your skills, and how did you navigate that situation?
I can talk about this one. So there's certain types of personalities that I come across sometimes, and it's just they feel that they know more than you do, or perhaps their way is the better way, but yet they've hired you. And how I navigate it, honestly, is if I can't run the show and do what I know works and get them the results because they're getting in their own way, I part ways with them immediately. So we do have clients that we like to say get in their own way, and it's just maybe a control issue or them wanting certain things to go certain ways. But if you start allowing them to run the show for say, or take up all of your time, that you can't do what you know needs to be done, that's not the right client for you. That's it. There's no shaping it or working with them. I tried that a few times, but there are certain personalities you can't shape. You can't, get it to work a little bit better. So if that client gets in their own way and doesn't allow you to do what you do best, just part ways. They're just not the client for you. Maybe they're the perfect client for somebody else.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, it's a waste of time for both parties and energy. And we know it's not our job to fix people. It's our job to like make things rank and make businesses work, So if it's not working, and not only they're in their own way, but they're in your way too, I understand it. Okay.
Yeah. And even if you, oh, sorry, Mary.
No, that's okay. I was just agreeing with Danny. And we come across it all the time. It just happens. But once you've seen it and you know how to recognize it, you'll start seeing it a lot sooner and know that's just not your client.
Yeah. What helps me a lot, I think I already said it in the chat, is that when somebody when a lead comes in or somebody researches about you, on your site, have everything as transparent as possible, but have your whole work process just laid out there, almost as if the client could do it themselves, right? And then they know exactly how much work is involved, but also exactly how you work. And then when a lead comes in, I send them a list of 23 questions, and that's my filter. So that's how I qualify leads. So the leads think that they're giving me information so I can help them the best, but it's actually my way of saying, oh no, I cannot take you on. Or I usually say, I'm not the one you want, right? I can't do this the way you want to have it. Yeah. So, and what also helps is to all those things, to keep it removed from the personal interaction. So have it on your site, have reports, all those, everything out there, but not, how can I say this? Not that it becomes a personal dialogue that you have with somebody. It's all removed from you as a person. And if you are as clear upfront about all that stuff, then the chance of getting a client that doesn't understand it is really, really low. And if it happens, it still happens, right? Maybe there's an in-house team and somebody gets replaced, right? Then you have to deal with a new person. So if that happens, we also have a fire or keep list. And then every once in a while, we're like, okay, we're going to get, and we just fire clients.
I don't think we hear that enough, that you can fire a client. I want to make that very clear.
Yeah, and you don't. It doesn't have to be a conflict. I usually just say, I can't give you what you want, right? Or we're not a match. And then you part on good ways. Actually, if you continue with the clients and you don't want to continue with them, it can hurt your reputation. It just gets from bad to worse. So better to make a clean cut as soon as possible. So
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. And my last question is, any predictions for the direction that SEO is going in your specific niche, in your specific field? Any predictions? Is it going to be around in a couple months, in a couple years? Is it?
Yeah,
I mean,
I think overall SEO is trending away from spammy and more towards quality, and that's not really a prediction. That's probably going to be like that forever. And the past 2 years or so, I guess, again, not a prediction. Maybe I'm not answering the question, but just kind of talking here. Google taking up different SERP features. So even if you're number one SEO, you're still 4 or 5 scrolls down. So there was the people also ask, and now I think Google just launched something like next questions asked on a certain, like some near you searches. So you have the ads, and then you have maybe images, and then you have people also ask, and then you have people ask next, and then you have the first SEO result. So I think we're continuing to trend that direction. So really looking at the SERP for the keywords that you're going after. And if you're going to put a lot of money behind something, make sure that it's going to be a SERP where people are going to see you once you're successful. So.
Okay. And SERP, for people who may not know, stands for?
Search Engine Results Page.
Yeah, what we see every day when we go on Google. Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to ask this question from the chat. Anna asked, have you ever considered taking on a male or gender neutral pseudonym to get better pay or more projects? I find that a pretty interesting question.
Nope. Somebody else?
I have not, but I'm pretty straightforward and upfront. I do know some people who have put like a fake assistant in between them and the actual client so that they don't have to, speak to that client within their own voice, or it's easy for them to say, hey, they're on vacation for the next 2 weeks. They'll, catch up with you then. So there's a little bit of a barrier, but I haven't heard where it's necessarily wanting to put a male voice behind it necessarily. I honestly feel that we just need to speak up and be ourselves and do it the best that we can. And let's start people getting used to women in these positions.
Taking up more space. I like that.
I answered this question in the chat, so I'll just answer verbally also. I did this earlier in my career, right? I've been in it for 14 years, and I was a young 28-year-old woman in this space, and that was really challenging. So I did have a male alter ego, Kyle. It's pretty simple. And I also hid behind, right, like an agency name. So I didn't want to be, for a long time, I didn't want to be the face of my company. I just had this brand, this company, this agency that I hid behind as an employee of, not necessarily the expert and the strategist. And the trouble with doing that is then the clients that you get the difference, I guess I should say, the difference has been versus building myself and my own brand versus hiding behind a company name. The people that I work with now want to work with me. They want to work with Kayle Larkin. And so it's a lot smoother and it's a lot less stress versus the people who thought they were working or, were working with just this agency and I was just an employee. I wasn't respected as much. So what you think you're getting out of doing that is actually the opposite. And when you build your brand name, the clients you get want to work with you and you are more respected. And it's a lot smoother and a lot less stressful.
Totally. I accidentally get people thinking I'm a man just because my name is Danny. So in Spain, we put our photos on our CVs. I know that's not really typical in the States, but yeah, I've seen all ends of the spectrum. All right. I want to say thank you to all of these amazing panelists and everyone who joined in and everyone who was talking in the chat. And I'm just so grateful. I'm so appreciative. I will make sure that this write-up happens very soon so that you guys can continue connecting. And I want to end with one final poll. I hope that you guys learned something new today. And hold on, I think I'm frozen again.
Yay. No, you're not. You're good.
Look at it go.
Here we go. I'm going to try what I did before.
People learn stuff. Good.
Yeah, 17 said yes. Did you learn something, Julie? Wow, that was a heavy sigh.
I feel like you guys are all just very much like myself, and I kind of felt like I was a unicorn in the industry, to be honest.
Right.
It's a sausage fest, to be honest, SEO. So just being in here with confident women, it makes me feel less like a unicorn.
Nice.
Yes.
Even if you're not confident, you can be confident in you not being confident.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be quirky and funny and too, I mean, I talk about stuff I do wrong, and it's okay to suck a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's the perfect sentence. It's okay to suck a little bit, I mean.
Yeah. It can also be taken a whole other way, but yeah, let's not go there.
Thank you. And for everyone who's asking, yes, there will be a replay. All of my technical fumbles included, but there will be a replay. All right. Thank you all.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.